Tyler, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm looking so forward to hearing your story. So, if you could, tell us about what it is that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine, for having me on the show. It's a great honor to be with you. A little bit about me. I'm the founder of the Top Performance Group. It is a coaching platform and course for business owners. And we have helped individuals break through the three complacency models to achieve more lasting joy, success, optimism, and happiness in their life and their business. And we have different avenues that we go through. We develop our 4 pillars of top performance. Those are the 4 kind of key principles that we're going to walk your business through. And we have different avenues. So we have our business owners course, and we also are building other courses for industry specific niches. So right now we have an insurance sector, and we're looking at adding other industries as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. Now, how did you get involved with wanting to do this as a life life choice?
Life choice. I love that phrase right there, Catherine. I feel like honestly, it was a calling of my life. Ever since I was a young kid, I've always loved, you know, helping people, right? And sharing something. Somebody was struggling with something, I love helping them and going and making it better. I think it really stemmed a lot from my parents. My parents were in education. My dad worked at university his entire career. My mom was a teacher. She taught junior high, high school, college, everything there. So I always had kind of that passion of teaching. And I served a 2-year mission for my church. And I feel like that really stemmed my ability of wanting to help people.
Hmm.
It's just reaching out, just selfless service and teaching people about God and seeing it change their life. That was kind of one of my very first glimpses of how much joy could come from sharing knowledge with other people. And so when I got home, I actually became a corporate trainer for a university, taught Microsoft Adobe to faculty and staff. That led into opening an insurance agency. Don't know how that transition happened, but it did. Ran a scratch agency for a few years, and then was actually approached and became that insurance company's corporate trainer, and did that for several years. And everything in the back of the mind was I always wanted to do more. So it was
Hmm.
essentially the last 4 years of in-depth research as I was working for this other company that I put together all these frameworks and processes and kind of tested them out as I was going along with these business owners I was working with, which allowed us to launch this business.
That's very, very cool. And you're not the first person I have spoken to that, basically started with, involvement with the church and even a little bit of ministry to then go into something that I like to think of it as it's like kind of like next level ministry, if you will, because, you are still teaching, you are still helping others, but it just gets more focused. It's kind of like a nice little proving ground in some churches where you can start helping people, and then it's like, oh, wait a second, I got something that's a little more specific, and I can actually use these skills that I've learned to do even more. Do you feel that that is what kind of happened to you?
I do. Because a lot of our content is Christian based, you could say. Because, Catherine, I could ask you this question: who in the world has the most followers?
Oh, I think this is a trick, but it's probably Jesus.
It is, right? Most people would
I
think,
didn't think
oh,
about that. That's so funny.
The Rock, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Taylor Swift, Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he has the most Instagram. But in reality, it's Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's funny.
And when you look at that in relation, even just as business sector, but leadership, culture, creativity, right? Those are the type of aspects that really it shapes people's lives. It has for millennium.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love those relations in business. So business Christian owners will honestly love kind of what we teach because it inspires you to live a better life. And that's how business grows.
Yeah, and I think some of the best lessons, um, you know, are very basically stated in the Bible, where you
Yeah.
are basically just like care for each other, help each other, and that's kind of it. Let's not complicate it.
Yep.
All right. So you talked about how, you found that it would be a little bit of a springboard, um, to get to where you are right now. But I want to go even a little bit deeper in that when you were a child, because I mean, I'm sure, or maybe I'm completely wrong, but I'm going to assume that, it's summer break and your feet hit the ground as a kid. What was some of the things that you would do that was just fun and there was like no responsibility?
It's funny that you are an artist. I saw that because that was my passion, is artwork.
Oh, wow, nice.
And I love artwork ever since a little kid. That was everything I was always doing. Of course, the outdoors, right? Our family's adventurous. We
Yes,
love
yes.
outdoors, camping, hiking, all those fun things. But really, I loved artwork. It was to me, it was so wonderful being able to take something blank, a blank sheet of paper, you have your tools, and by your effort, your actions, you created something beautiful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And there's so many cool parallels with artwork and business that I like to relate to. I always like to relate things to camping, to hiking, to artwork, and different avenues. But when I draw, so I'm a freehand artist, so I don't use
Hmm.
rulers, straight edges, and I do architecture.
Oh, nice.
And I always start with essentially the blueprint. I go and I essentially outline the building, and that's it. And then I start from left to right and fill in all the details. And I feel that's the path of entrepreneurs. You need the visionary, you need the individual that knows what things are going to look like. You have essentially the manager that has the tools that makes it a reality. And then the employees gets into the fine nitty gritty details of the business that keeps it running. And that's exactly how artwork and something beautiful and something grand is created. Is it has those key aspects of the fine, minuscule details. You mentioned when you hopped on this little sign behind me of this experience creating. Those are fine little details that are more meaningful once you like recognize them or experience them. But without the vision of the leader of where's this going, what's this going to produce, we don't know what that artwork's going to look like.
Nothing
So
makes me
that was
happier that
my
you illustrated that so perfectly. Because in my business, I was definitely the visionary, and I've always felt like, it's always about the idea, and then how to, you kind of figure out the details later, but you have to have the idea of what you want to create first before, like you said, you can go in and then start and fill in some of those details. So I love that. That's that little bit of storytelling you did there. That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you. But that was my passion. As a kid, Catherine, I loved artwork. It
And was
was
it
one of
mostly
my
like
hobbies.
architecture that you drew, or was it just like anything?
So as a kid, it was anything. Um, just superheroes, Pirates of the Caribbean, just anything a young boy would want to draw, I drew. And then it eventually kind of evolved. I actually ran a small artwork business, which I still sell prints here or
Oh,
there. But when I
cool.
was in college, I sold my artwork and actually sold all 50 states. And that was all
You.
architecture. Uh, so buildings, religious buildings, other types of buildings that we would
Oh,
just
that's very
reproduce and
entrepreneurial of
send
you
out.
right there. At such a young age.
Yep.
That's very, very cool. All right. So, did you still get the opportunity to do that kind of drawing, or has that kind of fallen to the wayside, or do you somehow incorporate it into what you do at all?
It's a little more limited. I would say it's taken on a new role as I'm a father of three. And now it's back to princesses and animals and
Yes, yes.
superheroes for them. It's fun. Our kids' room, they all have my artwork in it. So each kid, my wife has a theme, right? What colors do we need? So I've drawn different aspects for their room. That's
Nice.
kind of what it evolved to. It's more for the kids now, and it's a fun escape. It's something that I can relax and just do something for them. Or I love when we go camping my wife and I are big proponents of camping. It actually ties a lot into our business. As top performer, Catherine, the root words, the etymology of top performer means summit and to do. So you have to do the work to summit a mountain. That's the literal translation of a top performer. We all have our mountains in life, and it's how we climb those and how we find the joy of those journeys that relates. And when my wife and I go camping and we're out in those outdoors and we're kind of rugged, that's the beauty of business. I love those opportunities to just relax for an hour, and I always bring my artwork materials with us, and I'll sit there and just kind of draw what I see. And in an hour, just have that sketch, and it's a process of enjoying that journey as we're going along.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool that you, like I said, that you still take the time to do that. You are any of your children talented in that way, like drawing wise? I mean, I think everybody's creative to a certain degree, but it just kind of comes out in different ways. But as far as drawing goes, are any of your children also good at that?
All three,
Oh, I
all
love it.
three are little artists. Our daughter, we have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Girl, boy, girl, and our oldest is a little artist. Um, Everything crafty, from bracelets to painting to artwork, um, and she's incredible at her age. And it's fun because my wife always makes these comments of how our kids have inherited my drawing. Because our youngest, when she was about 7 months old, she would hold a pencil correctly at
Oh my
like
goodness.
7 months and scribble on the paper like correctly.
Yeah, but she
It
didn't
was
fist
almost
it. She didn't fist
embarrassing.
it. She was doing it
Didn't
right.
fist it. No, it was in the fingers like this as she scribbles.
That's so cool. And I mean, I'm sure to your amazement too. It's like, oh well, we get a
Yes,
new one.
yes, they are. They're incredible. So kids are wonderful.
That's so cool. You said kind of in passing that you have like these family projects. Because I remember for a while, this is actually before I had a child. People were asking me to paint their kids' rooms with like some sort of whimsical wall and things like that. Have you done things like that?
So I actually have painted someone's wall before, and a lot of it is more just like pieces, like
Uh-huh.
um, on a board, on a
Oh yeah,
picture.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I've done several people's baby rooms with animals and with other things,
It's so
mainly
funny
just
because
for
people
fun,
always are like,
friends and family.
yeah, you might think, oh, you know what, it's work. It's like, no, it's really not. You're just giving me like a big canvas that I get to kind of go
Yeah.
crazy on, which is kind of fun. You touched upon too that you still do that. I personally believe that it's very important for entrepreneurs, business owners, visionaries in general to always stay in tune with some form of creativity. And it doesn't have to be drawing like we're talking about. I have a lot of people say, I'm not good at drawing, but those that have listened to the podcast know that your creativity doesn't always come out in drawing. So, what sort of ways do you unplug in order to get back to that left side of your brain and back to the grind and things like that? So, is it these opportunities you have with your family, or are there other things that you do too? And I think camping counts too. Be perfectly
Yes,
honest.
camping definitely counts. That's one thing I'm a big proponent of. Is I read a research study. It was done by the University of Utah. It's called the 3-day effect, and it's being out in nature, completely unplugged. So this little cell phone device, just turn it off, toss it
Hmm.
to the side, right? And for 3 days, if you're out in nature, it resets the brain. And my wife and I, ever since we did that, I researched that several years ago. My wife and I have done it. So every year we go camping for at least 3 days. And it's incredible to see the amount of productivity that comes into your work just by having those 3 days. Now, does it have to be fully nature? The study wasn't super clear, but I think that principle is the same. Is we need those breaks within our life and business, and even if it's a weekend, right, where you take that Friday or that Sunday to disconnect and recharge with your family, and it gives you that productivity boost. I remember when I was writing this book behind me, that was kind of my first initial thing before I launched the course. Yeah, I first thought I wanted to write a book, but then it evolved to more. I have so much content I could create courses and trainings, and that's the avenue we were in. But as I was writing that, I remember I was like page stalled. And then my wife and I went camping, and I literally wrote in a week what I was doing in a month just before. And it's so cool to physically see those creativity boosts by disconnecting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's probably our favorite thing, Catherine, is we love the outdoors. So hiking, we live up in northern Utah. So we have hundreds of trails on the Rocky Mountains right outside our back door.
Jealous. I'm
So
jealous.
we get to go there, um, spending time with the kids in the evening. It's all about, as a business owner, how do you prioritize time? So how do you time block those avenues? And when I work with my clients, we always do a 14-day audit of their day. And I always get the question from almost every single one of them, Tyler, why are you having me time block my weekends and my evenings? And the answer is the same, is because you don't just need to be a top performing business owner. You need to be a top performing parent. You need to be a top performing spouse. You need to be a top performing neighbor. And it's those evening times and what you do with them and those weekends is how are you prioritizing those as well.
I agree 100% because I had heard before, like if your business or your career can't be great if your private life is in chaos. You know, you do have to have that balance. And I think that's a little more what we talk about, or at least what I like to talk about when people say life balance. It's not like this, you know, it's got to be perfectly balanced sort of thing. It's like, no, it's, you have it so your life is not in chaos. And then it's balance, you know, and you can have a little more of a Zen existence if you like, you go home and everything is just like in total upheaval. It's like, well, how are you supposed to unplug or enjoy anything if that's a complete wreck? So yes, believe 100% in what you're saying. I also want to say too that, you know, for the people that are just listening to the audio, the book behind you is called Insure with Optimism. Let's talk about that a little bit. That's speaking specifically to your insurance clients, I'm going to guess.
That is, yep. So that was our original sector, mainly because that was my background. So when I got into the coaching sector, that's what we started with. That was our sole clientele was insurance agents and producing a top performing business in that sector. Since then, we've evolved to other businesses. So we have a new course that's business specific. So it's essentially we pulled out all the insurance aspects, and these are the four pillars apply to any business. So that's what we took and created. So that book was directly assigned to the insurance sector, and the first, that bottom word there of optimism is our first pillar of the four pillars of top performance. Because optimism, when you look at the Latin word, it just means best. So that's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of individuals because people think optimism is happy, positive. That's what they think the definition
Right.
is. The definition is simply best.
Hmm.
So in this book, it's how do you insure clients with the best policies? How do you insure with the best? When you look at a business, how do you run the best business? Are you giving the best experiences to the client? Are you responding to trials the best way possible? Are you developing the best version of yourself? Are you looking at your setbacks with the best mindset? Are you doing the best, most productive things in the day? So it all starts with that mindset shift of optimism. Are you having the best attitude? Okay, that's where that translation now changed to positive and happy. But are you having those best attitudes, those best interactions throughout the day? And so doing an audit of the business, that's what helps guide the other three pillars into your business.
Very cool. Very cool. So with that said, let me just ask before we sign off, is who would be an ideal client for you?
Our ideal client are business owners who love client relationships. So if you're like a service-based professional, you have a book of business, or those relationships is key to the longevity of your clients. So if you want like repeat business, client relationships, those that want positive workplace cultures, and those that put service first.
Cool.
So if
Is
those
that
are
for
your
any
business
size?
owners,
Is that for any size company, or do you focus on like middle market or mid-size, I should
Ours would
say?
be more probably mid-cap,
Okay.
um, small to mid-cap businesses that we work with. We have our general course that any business owner can just sign on and take, very affordable. We have our one-on-one coaching clients, which is a little bit more, and then we have our top performance accelerator, which we typically use for larger businesses where we actually come in and we give you 4 full day workshops with a team and then one-on-one coaching with the
Very
executive
nice. Very
team.
nice. All right, that's awesome. I love how you kind of stumbled into this because it seems like it's working for you. And I love that you are, respecting the right side of your brain with a lot of creativity, either in nature or drawing or things like that, or just interacting with children alone, I think is a really great way to unplug too, if you can get, because that's what it's really about, just getting down to that, I've got no other responsibility other than just to make something or to just act like a kid for a little bit. And for the people that, aren't sure that this is 100% true, I mean, think of all the times where if you get upset or frustrated with something, you'd have to go take a walk. It's very similar to what you do on very long weekends. And that, like I said, I think it is the best way to kind of unplug. So thanks for sharing your experience and how it works. And I appreciate you being here today. I'm also going to mention too that I'm going to have links to get in touch with you in the notes of the podcast. So if people want to learn more about what it is that you do, they'll be able to find you. But thanks for being here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the show.